It's time to strap in and get ready for the front stretch. Presented by Joe's Karting. Dan and Dirk are live in the studio today, ready to hear from you at 402-573-0590.
And it is the front stretch, presented by Joe's Karting. In Council Bluffs, online at joeskarting.com. Fast-paced white-knuckle racing just across the river on 23rd Avenue in Council Bluffs. Don't worry, there's a little bit of sewer work going on over there, but it'll be wrapped up soon, and it is still pretty easy to get to Joe's Karting. I would just tell you, if you want to avoid any detours, which it's a what would you count, about a half a block, a third of a block detour?
Yeah, a third of a block one way, quarter mile the other way, third of a block back. But get off the 24th Street exit. That's
the easiest way to get over to Joe's Karting, and there's no delays there. You just, in fact, you don't even have to stop at the stoplight anymore, because you're not going to cross any traffic. Well, I guess you have to look to your left.
You still got the stoplight at the casino.
Oh, I never stopped at that one anyways.
I believe that.
I hate that stoplight, by the way.
Well, I know you hate the casino.
Every time I'm no, I love the casino. I've enjoyed giving my money to the casinos quite often, and they love taking it from me. But when I'm going to Quaker Steak or I'm going to Joe's, I'm cruising. I'm going down that 23rd Avenue, and by the way, I'm doing the speed limit, and then somebody coming out of the casino, one car coming out of the casino switches the lights, and I have to stop, and then I get stopped, and it was just like, I hate that. But anyways, hey, this is the front stretch.
Hey, when are we going to change our show's name to, like the Omaha NASCAR Insider?
Maybe we should do that. With the name change with the afternoon show? Yeah, it's going to
really screw up our T-shirt sales.
If anybody, all of them that we have. Something we're going to work on in the offseason, though. You've been hassling me about that, and we never get around to actually sitting down and designing anything, and we've got a good sponsor that can help us out with that. But,
koozies, hats.
Something kind of cool just to get out there and kind of – everybody could use a koozie. It's one thing that I have a giant box of – I'm not even kidding, probably 150 koozies in my basement between construction companies and radio stations that I've worked for and all the dirt drivers that hand them out at the pits at the end of the night, and yet I never have a koozie when I need one.
No, that's because you use them once and throw them in the box. And
I
it's
throw
like
them
the
in my
abyss.
basement.
They're never seen from again.
I should have a collection in my truck, in my laptop bag, in my front stretch carry-on bag.
You'd need a bigger truck.
Yeah, that's true. All right, we got a big show lined up for you. As always, today we will recap the action last night from Kentucky. We'll talk about the IndyCar races coming up today at Iowa Speedway. We've got a couple of opinion segments, and we're going to talk results from I-80 Speedway. And, I forgot to email Stan about coming on and talking to us about Eagle Raceway. I'll send him a text message and see if Stan Cisar can join us. Yeah.
In a 305.
Dover has
from 16th.
won 5 weeks in a row. Is it 4 or 5 weeks in a row, I think? Not in the 305, but just race. He's won 4 or 5 weekends in a row. Right.
I don't think he's had a double. So
he's finally turned that around, and good for him because frankly I think he struggled earlier this year, and I could see the frustration.
Well, there were a lot of changes in Jack Dover racing. I mean, Mom and Dad are barely involved anymore. He's taken over and running the whole show, and got Lauren helping him out quite a bit. And
he got a new chassis, and they've been trying to figure that chassis out. And whenever I was talking to a couple of people, it's really kind of interesting when you get a new car, it's nowhere near your old one, even though it can be the exact same chassis.
Well, you could have one mounting point off a 16th of an inch, and that is a whole different ball game.
Yeah.
He really struggled. I think, didn't he have that car up for sale after like 3 nights?
He had it up for sale after we saw him at Lakeside.
Yeah. Couldn't get out of his own way at the beginning of the year.
And I think he was really frustrated after that night at Lakeside because he just picked up a brand new sponsor, Tony Stewart Racing.
Yep.
He was really excited about that.
Oh, he was pumped.
He was talking to Tony, and that was an opportunity right there with Tony Stewart sitting in the suites in Lakeside, watching one of his new sponsors. And this kid he's been hearing about, there's been a lot of people that have kept Jack Dover's name in Tony Stewart's ear for the last couple of years because Jack's an incredibly talented young driver. Everyone knows that because he wins all the time, and he didn't put up a very good effort that night at Lakeside. I think he was just really frustrated because he felt like that was his opportunity to finally get some real momentum and to really kind of break through in Tony Stewart's eyes. And Tony can make a lot of things happen for a young, talented driver.
He could write the check to make your career.
Yeah.
Well,
not even necessarily write the check, but put you in one of his rides.
That's what I'm saying. That's writing the check, as far as I'm concerned.
To put him in one of his World of Outlaw cars or his All-Star Series cars.
Well, even just an ACS national ride.
Right.
Paying the bills.
Right. And that's what that's the next level Jack needs to get to, is getting up and racing on a consistent level with the bigger touring series. And that's not saying anything about the Nebraska 360 Sprint Series. There's some incredibly talented drivers on there. But that's
a very competitive series.
As far as I'm concerned, in the world of professional sports, the Nebraska 360 Series is about AA baseball. And then I would say National ASCS Tour is AAA baseball. And then probably World of Outlaws is your Major League Baseball.
Well, I'd say your World of Outlaws is your Major Leagues. I'd throw the NSL in as your AAA.
Okay.
So I'd knock everything down a notch with that NSL in there. But,
and there's nothing wrong with Nebraska. It's doing exactly what it's meant to do.
Well, it's
keeping
super competitive series.
It's keeping 360s alive in this area, which is very critical. And it's feeding into the Knoxville Nationals, and it's feeding into the NSL and the ASCS, and it's doing a very good job of exactly what it's supposed to do, and it's a good starter league. It doesn't cost a lot of money to be a part of it as far as sprint cars are concerned, and Jack's doing a fantastic job with it, as he always does, but he's not a big touring guy, but he understands that he's gonna have to turn into a touring guy, especially for like an ASCS National or an NSL National Tour, if he wants to keep making his way up the ranks.
Yeah, if he wants to progress, that's his next progressive step is to do that. I mean, I'd love to see Tony say, "Hey, Jack, here's a ride for a year. Do what you can do." That'd be great.
He was so close to getting a World of Outlaw ride one year, and it all fell apart just months before the season started, and I know that was frustrating for him, and I think that's the reason why he ended up taking over a lot of the race program. Was before he was the driver and the engineer, and his mom and dad helped him with the finances, the sponsorships, all this stuff, and after that, Jack really wanted to take over and understand the whole aspect of it. And I got we've talked to him on the show. He said that after that, I ran the numbers and found out it cost me $1,000 to drop the gate at a racetrack, to haul there, to get the pit passes, have the proper licensing, and then to just put the tailgate down. And then it's $1,000 right away, and then I'm burning fuel, I'm wearing tires, I'm maybe breaking something if I wreck.
I mean, that's the average. Like he said, he goes, when I go race at I-80 or Eagle, it don't cost me that. But obviously it costs a lot more if I cruise to Minnesota, or get over to Knoxville, costs more, et cetera, et cetera. So
we'd love to hear from you, 402-573-0590. We've got a couple of opinions that we want to run past you and get your thoughts on. And one of them was Bubba Wallace was fined by NASCAR earlier this week for violating the personal conduct policy. And I'll track down the exact quote, but Bubba basically said, the Muppets are out at Kentucky. At Daytona for that race, for the Xfinity race, the way it was called. And if to let you guys in on a little bit of it, if you don't follow the sport as nearly as Dirk and I do, that during the Xfinity finish at Daytona last Saturday night, last Friday night, wouldn't it? They had crossed the overtime line, so there was going to be no overtime, and it took them a little while longer to throw the caution, and ended up calling the race, and I believe it was Eric Almirola that ended up winning that race, because he was the leader at the time they threw the caution.
Yeah, but they ran a long ways after that overtime line.
I didn't see it, and I'd heard that they ran for a while after that. And NASCAR said that they came out and pretty much said, yeah, that was our mistake. We apologize. We didn't understand the severity of the wreck until after it had happened. And that's a big thing for NASCAR. A lot of times you'll see these dirt tracks. We did a lot on Friday night at I-80 Speedway where when somebody wrecked, we waited for the field to get back to about a turn away from them. So if they wrecked on the exit of turn 2, when they were getting to the start-finish line is when they would throw the caution. And they do that in the hopes that the cars will get going and can continue on without throwing the caution and slowing this race down and delaying the end of the races and making it a late night for everybody. NASCAR has to be a completely different thing. At those speeds, they have to throw the caution. When the car is sideways, they have to throw the caution because they need to get the safety officials to the cars as fast as possible because the smallest of wrecks. Dale Earnhardt Sr.'s wreck, we've talked about it a million times. didn't look that severe.
Wasn't huge, no.
But then we've had guys like Elliott Sadler who have tumbled 13 times along the front stretch at Daytona and walked away from the accident. We had guys like Austin Dillon who had his car pile drived by what was a Brad Keselowski that couldn't get woed up, and he, thank God, walked away from it. So you can't look at the damage on the car and decide the safety officials don't need to hurry. They got to get there right away. So I think that was a part of they didn't understand the severity of the wreck at the time. So they were hoping that they could get that last lap in before they had to finish the race.
It's happened 100 times. If the wreck on the last lap is behind the leaders, which this one definitely was, it was the middle of the pack, but well behind the leaders, that they try and finish the race. But the fact that they got, I don't know, 200 yards maybe from the finish line before they called it, that was kind of... That was in the middle of what they should have done. They either should have gone ahead and ran that 200 yards. They would have had plenty of time to get everybody stopped before they got back to the wreck, or they should have thrown the caution flag, a third of a lap earlier once they passed the overtime line.
Bubba basically tweeted after that race something. He compared the race officials to the Muppets. It was something to say. I can't find the tweet now. I apologize, but it was something along the lines of, "Good to see we have the Muppets up in the officials booth tonight."
In control or whatever.
Yeah, and he was fined.
Comment.
He was fined $15,000 for that tweet following Daytona, and he released a statement saying, "Following Daytona, my emotions got the best of me, and I used social media to vent. That wasn't the best way to express myself, and I apologize for my actions. After the announcement of my fine, I was blown away by how many of you offered to assist me with it." With the support of my fans in mind, I thought this is where we could turn the incident into a positive cause. For those of you who are concerned about donations towards me, I ask that you instead donate to the GoFundMe account. They've set up a GoFundMe account. So I want to get your opinion. Was NASCAR overreaching? 402-573-0590. Should drivers be allowed to criticize the sanctioning body when they don't agree with what call they made? 402-573-0590. We'd love to hear from you. First off, Dirk, what do you think? Was NASCAR outside of its did it overreach?
I think they always overreach, but it is definitely their policy. I mean, they nailed Tony Stewart with it earlier this year.
Yeah.
When he was, before a week before he was going to come back racing, and
when he talked about the
lug nut issue.
Yep.
Then a week later they changed their policy, but they already said they were looking at changing it. So, but they're consistent with this. Anytime anybody's stepped over what they think their line is, they crack them pretty good across the knuckles. I don't remember who was it that came forward. People came forward to pay Tony Stewart's fine too. It was the other racers, I think, wasn't it?
Yeah,
other
it was
drivers?
the racing Racers Council.
Yeah,
ended up wanted to pay the fine, but instead the Racers Council donated $35,000 to Tony's charity. Yeah,
it was one of the charities. But no, I mean NASCAR's consistent with it. So as long as they stay consistent with it, I've got no problem with it. That it's their rule. Don't talk bad about us. You really can't, say a whole lot. We've got enough of that in the sport, especially locally, man. Facebook, if something bad happens at a track or some driver thinks they get screwed, they'll bash the track so quickly, and it gets so ugly on Facebook.
Yeah.
And it's really hurting the sport, and it hurts these tracks, and the tracks just go on their Facebook page and start blocking people.
There's a lot of topics we're going to talk about in the offseason, and really I can't wait to get to them because there's a lot of topics that really need to be addressed that fans don't understand the power they now have. And we're seeing this more and more on a daily basis, what impact social media is having on our society.
Oh,
at
huge.
First, it was a great way for me to keep in touch with my friends, my classmates from Red Oak that I never get to see. I meet new friends. I meet clients. I interact with Crystal and Chet Stambaugh and all of our Pick'ems contestants. I interact with them on Facebook, and I love that part of it. But it's it's honestly, Dirk, it's depressing, the negative stuff I'm seeing on Facebook between politics is one thing, but the attacks on the racetracks, that you sit back and look at a track that, like, I think it was last week ACS had to cancel. It was a couple of weeks ago Adams County had to cancel. And they canceled because they had a lot of cars coming from a long ways away, and there was a high chance of storms coming in. And so they canceled the races. Well, like weather does, it blew out, and it never happened. And they were just absolutely trashed on Facebook. And things like, you don't care about the sport. All you want is to make money, and which is an asinine comment, because I think they called the races so they didn't lose a ton of money, so they could keep the races going.
Well, and racers, they called them so the racers didn't lose a ton of money.
Exactly. They pay. The fans driving to the track and buying food and drinks, and then the races get canceled, and you don't get a refund on that. You don't get a refund on your ticket because the races were postponed. They have to make a call to certain. But back to the original point of social media is really starting to hurt our sport, and it's hurting a lot of other sports too. And it's hurting. I'm really starting to get tired of social media. And if there was any way that if I didn't have to run the Front Stretch Facebook page with getting the good news out there, I'd have deleted my account a long time ago and just gotten away from it all, because I think I could be a happy person with that. But my thoughts on the Bubba Wallace, I saw a couple of comments, and this happens every time NASCAR finds a driver. And they say, well, I thought we live in a free society where we could say what we want. To a sense, we live in a society that has a piece of paper that says the government cannot come after you for your thoughts and opinions. Thoughts and opinions. Your threats are a different thing. Thoughts and opinions that's the Bill of Rights. That is our freedom of speech. NASCAR is not the government of the United States. NASCAR is a sanctioning body.
NASCAR is the government of NASCAR.
Right. And just like my company here that we broadcast with 590, if I was to go on social media and trash them for some of their policies and thoughts, they have every right to fire me. Oh. I don't have freedom of speech when it comes to my boss or my sanctioning body. And dirt tracks are the same way. If you go on social media, if you're a driver or a fan, you go on social media and you trash the track, and then you show up the next week, don't be shocked if the track doesn't let you in, because they don't want you at your track, not because of your opinions, but because of the negative things that came about because of your opinions.
Yeah, I mean, it'd be great if there was a way to track what those negative opinions cost the track.
Yeah.
But, I mean, I have no idea how you could even think about doing something like that. But believe me, if you've got fans and they listen to you and follow you, and you say, well, I'm not going to go race anymore, the track lost a car, but then they lost however many of your fans, 10, 15, 20, 100.
Joe Koziski figures for every driver he loses 10 fans. If a driver doesn't come to the track that week, or a driver quits racing at I-80 Speedway because they want to be IMCA sanctioned, they don't want to pay for a NASCAR license, he figures he loses 10 people for every driver. And I think that's a good average number. Now, somebody like Kyle Burke doesn't come to the Alphabet Soup race or an SLMR race, he may lose somewhere closer to 50 or 60 fans. So I think it's a good average. And the Zeitners, by the way, I was actually really impressed. Corey Zeitner's and the Zeitner family's got a very strong following.
Oh, yeah.
And I get a kick out of it also because when you see one Zeitner pull in to the pits, here comes and no joke, but here comes the rest of the clan.
Usually.
Here comes Corey, and there's Justin, and there's Zach, and there's Al, and there's Mel, and there's what do you think? Probably 20 people that take up their pit crew between the 4 or 5 cars that show up?
Yeah, it's probably somewhere around there, because, I mean, they bounce back and forth, so it's really hard to tell whose crew some of them are with.
Yeah. So I think, and by the way, and NASCAR did put out a rule earlier this year for personal conduct policies. And it was, the drivers are basically being told that they need to live up to a certain standard, which I absolutely love. One of the biggest things I love about this sport is that we don't have a bunch of drug addicts and rapists, and we've got our share of criminals, but they're not. They're nickel and dime criminals, if anything. We don't have near the issues with our athletes like the NFL does, and like the NBA and the MLB and all these different sports. Even what is it? Cycling has issues with doping and drugs and that kind of stuff.
Well, I mean, NASCAR, when I was still doing it, I mean, maybe 2003 or so is about when they started their random drug tests. Never bothered me, but some of their banned substances are in just literally over-the-counter cold medicines and stuff. That's why, like Brad Keselowski, you hear him say, I don't even take aspirin.
Mm-hmm. After the A.J. Allmendinger incident, that was kind of a real concern because he took an Adderall, which is a banned substance because it is a bit of a mind-altering drug because it changes the chemical balance in your brain. For those who need it, he did not have a subscription. A prescription. That's a different word. If he'd had a prescription, it'd have been a different story. But he didn't have a prescription for a drug that requires one.
Even then, they would do a little research and see if you actually need the prescription. Yeah. Because that was part of the Jerry Mayfield deal was the Adderall that he was supposedly taking for ADD.
Except that didn't it end up turning out to be meth?
I don't remember the whole deal, but NASCAR said, we looked at his medical records and
he did get busted for that, but then he
he went down
2 months later he got busted for meth, which was
he was in a bad place.
Yeah, a shame, a talented driver. But anyways, my point is that I'm really glad that NASCAR has this personal conduct policy. All sports leagues do have them. Some of them have a tough time enforcing them while the other ones do, but we really do have a group of drivers that your child could say, I want to look up to them.
Well, and one of the bigger deals about NASCAR's policy and their enforcement and everything is NASCAR doesn't have a 4-month season.
Yeah.
They start in February, the beginning of February, and even through January they're doing testing, and they run through the middle of November, Then they've got December and January off. So their season's pretty close to 9 months long, 9.5 months. So you don't get a whole lot of off time to where you can, go out and party your brains out and then get it out of your system,
Right. All right. We never did get to the Kentucky recap. We'll do that in turn number 2. We'll try to get to Stan Cisar in turn 3. A lot to come here on the front stretch. We'll be back on AM 590, Omaha's ESPN Radio.
My kind of road trip is a little different. Sure, it's got hours of driving with plenty of pit stops, but it's not for minivans. And this drive is one journey that's all about the destination. This is my road trip. This is my Speedway. July 29th, experience the NASCAR K&N Pro Series Casey's General Stores 150, presented by Vatterott College. July 30th is the NASCAR Xfinity Series US Cellular 250. Tickets start at $15 only at Iowa Speedway.
Joe's Karting in Council Bluffs has taken a page out of IMCA's rulebook and gone crate. These brand new low-emission engines will still have you white-knuckling it all through the Metro's fastest indoor facility. Joe's Karting is now friendly for all skill levels with their brand new Honda-powered engines. It's time to get to Joe's today and find out what drivers like Jack Dover, Shaylee Bate, and Andrew Kosiski have known for years. Located in Council Bluffs and online at joeskarting.com. That's karting with a K.
Dan and Dirk are rolling into turn 2 with a little attitude on the front stretch.
But not any attitude outside of NASCAR's conduct policy. Welcome back to the front stretch, heading into turn number 2. And let's talk about a little bit of Kentucky recap. But before that, man, I'm really excited about today. As soon as we get done with the show, I'm going home and getting a little bit of breakfast. And then I am headed eastbound and down. I'm going to Iowa Speedway for a little bit of IndyCar races. I wish you'd come. Why wouldn't you and get girlfriend? You guys come over this weekend.
Yeah, she's got tickets at, what's his name? Justin Moore. It's country stuff. What country star is named Justin?
I don't know.
That sounds like one of them little boy bands or something. And
maybe he was named after the Boots, Justin Boots.
Maybe he was in a boy band and changed his name to that and got knocked down a notch or two to country.
The Iowa Corn 300 will be at Iowa Speedway today. The tickets say green flags at about 4:15, so I think who knows when that'll actually be. It varies around depending on network time, but you could imagine it's going to be within 10 or 15 minutes of that window. And there's some great. I'm really excited about going over that. I love this race. I think I saw that Joseph Newgarden landed on the pole, or at least on the front row for today's starting grid, and it's a really fun race to go and watch, and it's quick too. 300 laps with the Indy cars. That goes by fast.
Yeah, well, it's like if they're rocking, it's like 4 laps a minute.
Yeah,
they really scoot, and if you get over there, I think at noon or 1, they've got the Indy Lights racing.
Yeah,
which is a cross between a go-kart and an Indy car.
It's just like a lower touring. It's like the Xfinity or the Truck Series as far as the...
It's the feeder series.
Right. And that's where a lot of these guys came from. We talked to Ryan Hunter-Ray and... who's the other guy we talked to?
Hinchcliffe.
Yes, James Hinchcliffe. Both of them came out of the Indy Lights series. So that was... it's a good feeder series. It's doing a good job for the IndyCar series, and you can get your tickets today. Listen, I looked at it a couple of weeks ago. I could pull it up during the break if we need to, but $10 for cheap seat tickets, and I'll buy that all day long. I'm going to drive 2 hours to go over to Newton, Iowa. We're going to spend about 4 or 5 hours there. We're going to spend about 3 hours ahead of time, just kind of walking around, eating some food, seeing the sights, and experiencing the whole thing, and then watching the race for probably 2 hours, 2.5 hours, and then make our trip back.
Are they going to serve that apple fritter with the pork tenderloin deal?
I would imagine they would.
God, I wish we would have got to try that the other day.
Yeah.
I mean, you had the... What'd you have? The corn dog thing in the waffle cone.
Yeah, with the eggs.
And it disappeared. So I didn't have one, but you did. I'm not a corn dog guy, but
it was very good.
Yeah, you destroyed it.
Let's talk about Kentucky last night for the Quaker Steak 400. This was a very interesting race. As the week kept going on and as we got closer and closer, we all knew that they not only repaved Kentucky, but they redesigned 3 and 4. I believe they put in a little bit more banking.
Well, they changed the banking a little bit, but I think the bigger deal, as far as the repaving and everything, was Goodyear changed the tire after the tire test, so everybody was green on what the tires were going to do. They
found that the way that Goodyear said it was that they found some teams had a lot of blistering problems with their setups, and instead of telling the teams you shouldn't run that because the teams will run that setup if they think that the blistering tires will hold out because it's a little bit faster. And so the problem with that is that then Goodyear still gets blamed.
Exactly.
So Goodyear said, okay, well, we've seen some blistering issues. We're a little concerned, so we're going to switch tires, and we're going to change up the compound. And I believe it was the tire that was used at Las Vegas earlier this year.
That is correct.
And something I'd heard when we were talking to Pat Warren a few years ago, he said that he had just gotten off the tire machine. And it's just this giant, it's almost looks like a track packer at a dirt track, except it's got 6 Goodyear Eagles mounted on it with a bunch of weight, and they just take laps around that track. And they're laying rubber in. They're trying to advance the wear of the track so that it's not so aggressive. And I think they said they ran that tire machine every day for 10 hours, I think 7 straight days, and got it worn in before the guys got there. What was it when they arrived at the track? Probably on Wednesday.
But if they get a great big rainstorm,
which they did.
That's all out the window.
Which they did.
All that work is gone.
But I think it helped out a lot because they were talking that Brad Keselowski talked about in the post race that this maybe it wasn't Brad Keselowski, but he said what they did with the tire machine absolutely changed the characteristics of a brand new track to where this is going to be a great racing surface in a couple of years.
Yeah,
or in a couple of races.
It was definitely not quite a great surface last night. But again, I don't know if it was the track surface or the tires or just everybody trying to do just a little too much. Because, they set a record for cautions. Mm-hmm. And would they have 5 in the first 50 or 60 laps, something like that? It was insane.
And there was a lot of aero issues. What was it? Jimmy Johnson and Joey Logano both got into the wall because the car behind him took the air off the little that is left of the spoiler.
Yeah. Off that Band-Aid or whatever they've got back. There ain't much back there.
And once again, I apologize if we're gushing on NBC, but what some amazing graphics they had last night to help explain what happens when you reduce the splitter on the front, what happens when you bring up reduce the splitter in the back, and all the different things they were talking about. Man, what a great series of graphics. It helped me, who's been a part of the sport for 10 years, and I've got you that's explaining it to me while we're at the actual track. It helped me understand a little bit more.
Well, and Jeff Burton and Steve Letarte do a great job of explaining it. In layman's terms. They're not using engineer terms that 10 people that watch the show are going to get. They talk about it. They call it their wind tunnel. They used it extensively at Daytona. Another person and actually two people that got beat up because of that little tiny spoiler last night were the two rookies when I think it was Paul Menard got up behind Ryan Blaney.
Yep.
And you might as well just, put a jack under the back of the cars and start jacking them up. Once you pull up there and take that air off that spoiler like they're doing, he just started to come around, and Chase didn't give him any room.
No.
And Chase said that. He goes, I was trying to stay in the black. I didn't want to get up in the gray.
Yeah.
And he goes, there just wasn't room there. It's a racing deal. And, Ryan Blaney turned around and basically said the same thing. He goes, I didn't mean to take us out, but, he goes, back of my car just all of a sudden snapped around. And he was a top 6, top 8 car. So it's not like he was out to lunch.
And there wasn't a lot of room for Chase to give because that groove was,
narrow.
As expected from a newly repaved track, was pretty narrow. But also, they were in some pretty big packs of cars when they weren't racing single file for one position. They were racing 4 or 5 cars all through different spots on that groove, car and a half, maybe 2-car wide groove.
2-car wide groove.
And they were all over it. And that was some amazing restarts.
Oh, there was amazing restarts. Every once in a while, they showed an amazing save. There was one Landon Castle made a big save, and then 2 laps later, he was bouncing off the wall. But, that spoiler isn't very big. The back of that car is very loose. I mean, your guys like Carl and Brad that are younger and don't mind laying it out there a little bit, are not struggling at all with that.
Speeds were up, right? They were up from last year?
Just a hair.
Okay.
Just a hair.
Because I wonder if the speeds being up and the aero package being down threw these guys for a little bit of a loop.
Well, the speeds were up because the aero package is down. There's no drag. I mean, there's very little drag, but you could really see it. The guys had to get strung out. There was, several car lengths between first and second, between second and third, between third and fourth. The only guy that really did a whole ton of passing was there at the end, and part of that was because the guys were, trying to save some fuel.
Yeah.
But Ryan Truex, went from 25th to second or third.
Ryan or Martin?
Or excuse me, Martin Truex. Yeah.
Yeah, he was. They said that I think he passed He passed about 20 cars in about 10 laps.
Well, he went from 25th to second or third.
Yeah. Before
he decided to dive off for fuel. Before his crew chief said, "Hey, we got to save some fuel." And like they said, it's too late now.
Mm-hmm.
And then of course Brad sits there with a lap and a half or what to go and says, "I'm out. I'm out."
Well, he crossed the start-finish line and he was not under the power to take the white flag, and Edwards was there and he said he just flipped on the switches, got the engine to fire back up, and he just put throttle down, and it enough to stay in front of the 19.
It took off, but like Carl said, did you hear his post-race interview?
Yeah.
He said he did what he had to win, but he goes, I'm coming down the back stretch, and they go, Brad's out of gas. The 2's out. Go get him, and he goes, all of a sudden, I'm flying up, and I'm going to go around him, and all of a sudden, he's blocking me and pulling away. And then Dale Jarrett's comments afterwards was say, I don't want to play poker with Brad Keselowski.
Yeah. Keselowski gets the win. Edwards comes home second. Ryan Newman, Kurt Busch, Tony Stewart rounds out your top 5. 600th start for Tony Stewart in his NASCAR Cup Series career, and he gets a top 5 finish to round it off. I think he is 11th all-time wins. No, if he'd got a win last night, he'd have been 11th all-time wins. He's 12th right now, tied with a couple of guys.
And all you pick'em contest people, take note. There's been 6 races at that speedway with the Sprint Cup Series. The guy that won last night has won half of them. He has won 3, so he's like the Harvick of Phoenix at Kentucky. So pay attention.
Biffle, McMurray, Kenseth, Harvick, and then Truex round out your top 10. Guys who had some rough days. Ricky Stenhouse Jr. finished dead last. He was involved early in an accident. So was Joey Logano, who finished 39th. Jimmy Johnson finished 32nd. Chase Elliott 31st. Clint Bowyer 23rd. Boy, he can't wait for the season to end, huh?
Well, probably not. I mean, he got into trouble there coming out of 2, and the whole year's been like that for him. He's on an island.
Kyle Larson finished 19th. Really surprising.
He ran in the top 8 or so most of the race and then just disappeared at the end. Tried something and got off.
I'm at the point with Kyle where obviously he is an incredibly talented driver, and I don't want to diminish his talent at all because he's still up there and challenging with. You tell him he's got a 19th place finish at Kentucky. That's still 20 positions better than 20 of some of the best NASCAR drivers. And this field of 40, when you finish in the back of a field of 40, it makes you look bad. But then you got to keep in perspective that these are the best drivers in the world. And we're comparing them to other stock car drivers, to dirt track drivers, to IndyCar drivers and F1 and all these different kinds of drivers out there. But these guys in the stock cars, other leagues have tried to come in and do well in NASCAR, and they can't even get close.
Sam Hornish won the Indy 500, but he struggled mightily in this series. I mean, he's won some stuff in the Xfinity. He won the Iowa race earlier this year, so he can still drive, but he can't cut it with these guys.
I have a couple of people that ask me when they're making their picks about my thought. What do you think? And that's part of the reason why I don't play the contest, is because then I can kind of help people along if I want to. Frankly, I can give recommendations and not feel the burn of being wrong.
Well, you just tell them what I pick, and that's pretty
which is why you don't send your picks until about 5 minutes before the race starts now. But somebody asked me, said, why didn't I pick Kyle Larson? Because the pre-race was saying he's the guy to pick today. He's the talented driver. I said, because Kyle has a bad habit of not being able to finish a race.
Exactly.
And not that he's not running, but that he just fades late. I think the best thing for Kyle Larson's career is to get to Tony Stewart Racing and to sit and learn from Kevin Harvick, Tony Stewart, and Kurt Busch. I think that is the best organization. Also, maybe a Penske would be good for him too. To have, although Kyle's not really a brash guy. He's not really an aggressive guy. He's aggressive behind the wheel, but he's a calm demeanor. I don't know if he would thrive as well with Joey Logano and Brad Keselowski, because those are both very boisterous, outspoken, aggressive guys.
Well, I mean, those two guys will wreck you to win a race.
Yeah, and they'll wreck each other. I mean, that's why Joey Logano was in the wall, because Brad Keselowski was trying to get the spot from him.
Yeah, I mean, they will do that, and I think over time, once Kyle gets a win, I think maybe he will do that after he wins the first time, but he's got to win that first time before he can start doing that.
He's there. He's got the talent level. He just needs the coaching and the veteran to help him out. And I don't think he has that at Chip Ganassi Racing.
Well,
his teammate is Jamie McMurray, who is the tamest person in the pits.
He's Matt Kenseth's brother.
Yeah, one of the but Matt Kenseth was throwing haymakers at Texas a couple of years ago. I don't put him in the tame category anymore.
Well, you've got to get Matt past the line, but Matt is pretty laid back, and Matt's not going to wreck you unless you're Joey Logano, and that's one thing that he'll never forget, Took him out of a chance for the championship.
A little bit of a mix-up in the pickups contest. A couple of people got their second wins on the season, so they were able to jump a little bit closer to that top 15. Dirk, after Daytona, you were finally able to jump into the chase bracket.
Yeah, I got on that streak where I'd pick a guy and he'd win the next week. I'd pick a guy and he'd win the next week. I mean,
you were saying you were wanting to pick Brad for Kentucky, but he wasn't eligible.
Well, yeah, I just had him the week before, so I couldn't pick him.
And you got the win out of that too.
And I picked Carl, so I did the absolute best I possibly could.
Jesse Totten is still leading our pickups contest with 4 wins on the season and 588 points. So the regular season is ranked by wins, then by points. Once the chase starts, the wins go away. Well, they don't go away, but you don't get credit for the wins anymore, and it all comes down to points. And you've got those bonus points from the wins. But if we were to shake up the points right now, Jeff Benson would be our points leader because he has 642 points. He's the only one in the 600s. Huh? Only one. The closest person to him is, I think, Jesse Totten at 588.
But how many wins does he have with his 600 points?
3.
Okay, so he's in the 3 bracket. That's good.
So he's on fire right now. Consistent picks, good wins. He's just playing it steady for the next couple of races till we wrap up the chase. We have 8-9 races to go till the chase starts.
I've got 3 times as many bad races this year already as I had last year all season. I had Tony Stewart's 1 point at Watkins Glen when he broke the rear end running 10th.
We haven't gone to the Glen this year.
Not yet. But, I mean, that was one for last year.
Last year, okay.
I had the 1 point there. I don't think I got under 20 points the whole rest of the year.
Yeah.
But
this year you've had a 6, a 5, and a 1.
Yeah. Dale Earnhardt in 2 races has got me a total of 6 points.
Which, honestly, as well, from looking over a lot of the contest, a lot of people have had 3 or 4 single-digit bad picks. You've had some very good, consistent upper 30s, a couple of 20s, higher 20s picks, and a couple of teens. Points-wise, you're right there. I mean, I think you would be ranked. Well, you've got 534 points, so you'd probably your 3 wins is helping you out. But
yeah, but I mean, I'm 100 points behind the points leader. If you went with straight points,
yes,
over
you
100. And I mean, and that's 2 full races. That's 2 full wins if you get the 48 points for a win plus. So, I mean, if you take my 2 Dale Earnhardt starts out of there, that's most of it. I definitely have a big jump up. But yeah.
Oh wow! If we went strictly by points, you'd be 17th. So you'd drop 7 spots. But that's just the way it goes. Oh, poor Sharon Havenridge, Rick Havenridge's wife. They play together. She'd be 4th. But right now, she only has 1 win on the season.
Yep.
So that's just it kind of. I always love playing with numbers and stuff like that. But getting close to wrapping up the regular season, and don't worry, 5-weekers. We're getting really close to launching our next 5-week contest.
Working hard on it. We've got a big one.
We had one in the bag. We were trying to get approval for it. It just didn't come through in time. We were supposed to announce it today. It may come through, so it may be a quick announcement to start at New Hampshire, but it's going to be tight to get it in time. So we may not be able to do that, but I got a very good feeling we'll be able to do a Kansas Speedway October giveaway, and then we'll immediately turn around and we'll do a Quaker Steak and Lube 5-week giveaway for a $100 gift card to do a season finale wrap up at Quaker Steak and Lube and watch the season end. And
we'll be there for a little party.
Yep, have a good time. All right, we got to take a break. Stan Cisar's on the line. We're going to talk Eagle results coming up in turn number 3. We'll be back here on the front stretch.
Quaker Steak and Lube is the official watering hole for the front stretch and the best place to catch all the NASCAR action today. Open at 11 a.m. with delivery available to Council Bluffs.
Great times, great food, get to Quaker Steak and Lube.
Are you looking to book your next outing? Look no further than Joe's Karting in Council Bluffs. Located just north of Bass Pro Shop, Joe's Karting can handle outings of well over 100-plus people. Bachelor parties, corporate outings, team building, birthday parties, and much more. Give Buddy a call today and reserve your outing. Joe's will even work with local restaurants to cater your event. Book yours today at joeskarting.com. That's karting with a K. It's time to get to Joe's and find out what everyone already knows.
Feather the brake and get back to the gas. Dan and Dirk are headed into turn 3 on the front stretch.
Welcome back to the front stretch. Heading into turn number 3, and it's time to talk a little dirt track action. We're going to get a little bit of update on what's going on with the America's home track at Eagle Raceway. Let's put Stan Cisar on the line. How you doing this morning, Stan?
Hey, pretty good. How's everything in Newton, Iowa?
Well, we're still in Omaha right now, but I'm heading over to Newton here shortly.
Oh, all right. Great night last night. We had 2 weeks of rainouts, and everybody was jonesing for some racing, and we had a packed house. It came down. They kind of rolled 3 weeks of action into one night. They had the kids' color run during intermission. We probably had about 300 kids getting dirty and colorful and doing the obstacle course down there during intermission while they reworked the track. We also had the Freedom Fest, which is an annual deal. One of the largest fireworks displays down in the Lincoln area. And Jim Hitzman and Michael Elliott and the guys, they do a great job with the fireworks. Jeremy helping out down there. And last night, just dumb luck, man. We hit the music just perfect. We ended the last grand finale, and Lee Greenwood ended at exactly the same time. So, it's better to be lucky than good sometimes.
Amen. And I'm looking at your results sheets last night. You weren't kidding. You had a lot of races. How's your voice this morning after calling all that?
It was good. It was good. It was, it was, like I said, I had a couple of weeks off, so I was just like all the rest of the fans. I was ready to see some racing at America's home track, and gosh, the racers didn't disappoint last night. We had some surprise winners and had some new winners. Kicking things off, hobby stock division, Shelly Anderson picked up a win. Shelly is the daughter of a guy that's been around racing for years and years, Jim Sassy. Unfortunately, we lost Jim to cancer a few years ago, but she actually started racing, had an A-feature win a couple of years ago, but the car didn't pass tech inspection, so she lost that deal. So she got out of the driver's seat for a couple of years and was back in this year. She picked up that feature win, and it wasn't a gimme. She had the heat right on her there at the end of the race, and she did a great job, never put a wheel wrong, and it was a very popular win with the fans.
Double features for all of your hobby stocks, modifieds, sport compacts, sport mods, and sprint cars. So, you guys were, along with, 3-4 heats for almost every race.
No, we didn't actually have double features because the rain out week we didn't actually get the races started. We were still in the hot laps, but it was still a pretty long night. We had the usual 138 cars, if I remember correctly, and had B features in every class except the hobby stocks. And in the hobby stock division, talking about that race, that was an excellent race. A guy that's been coming to Eagle for years and years, Travis Albrecht, picked up his first win, and it wasn't without incident. Roy Armstrong passed him, and Travis actually passed him back. And Roy's one of the toughest guys in the business in that hobby stock division, and another very popular win. And I'll tell you what, the celebrations after the checkered flag last night, I think they were on par with any that we've seen for a while. Guys were up on the roof, and in the modified division, a great race. The top 3-4 cars were under a blanket for most of that race, and some new names up there, and one old timer, a guy that's probably got more laps, that's still racing at Eagle Raceway, probably got more laps, I think, than any other driver. Rick Gropp from Lincoln, Nebraska, picked up a very popular win, and Rick is probably all of about 5'1" tall, but he's a great guy. He's got candy for the kids every week in the pits. They come down, they sign the deck lid of his car. He said in Victory Lane, he's been with the same sponsor for 35 years. He's been racing at Eagle that long, since the inception of the modified division down there, clear back in the Beecham days, 2 owners ago, and like I said, a very popular win, and he had to earn it. It looked like Chevy Hayden was going to pick up his first win. He passed Aaron Pella. Bob Sobek was in the hunt. Top 4 cars had kind of broken free from the rest of the pack, and it came down to the last couple laps, and after a restart, it looked like that bottom side started to go away a little bit, but Rick made it work, and he picked up a very, very popular win, like I said, for all the old timers. And we talked in the interview in Victory Lane, his new nickname is the Racing Relic. I said we scored one for the Social Security gang last night. So. Sport compact division, though, this guy's been on a roll. I know he picked up a win Friday night at I-80 Speedway. He's the defending point champion, and he won the A-feature. Another one that was not without a fight. I think he took the lead with 2 laps to go. That's Cole Creco out of Lincoln, Nebraska, car number 30K.
Okay, so that's how you say. I want to say formally, I apologize, because I was calling him Creeshow, but I think I butchered his name. It was Creekow?
Creco.
Mm-hmm. Okay. I'm going to try to make a note of that, because he finally, like you talked about, he came to I-80 Speedway on Friday night and was finally able to get Denny Berghunt Jr. to be not in Victory Lane.
Well, between Denny and Joe Baker, his brother-in-law, those guys pretty much dominated that division down there. And we also had a couple of I-80 guys come down to Eagle for the first time. Lindsey Tyson was down there. She missed the transfer by 1 spot, but a little bit different. I think we had like 36 sport compacts down there, 4 heats. A little bit different than the situation up the road there, and great night of racing. We did have one incident. Steve Roll out of Hastings, he's got the old car that's painted up like Harry Gant's Skull Bandit car, and he got together with another car going down the backstretch, and it looked like one of those big ones at Talladega when you try to get back in line. He got turned sideways on the right rear and came in contact with the big tire right at the end of the pit entrance, and he barrel rolled side over side about 3 or 4 times, but he popped out of the car okay, and all was good. that brought us up to the Race Saver Sprint Car A-main event. We had 27 sprint cars in the house last night again, and that was even with another big race. We lost a few cars. They had a big race going on out at North Platte, a Race Saver race that was sanctioned by the URSS, and we still had 27 cars, 3 big heats, and Jack Dover, who's been really struggling with the Race Saver program this year, he's driving for Chris Roseland. He showed up, did not make the A feature out of his heat race, finished in the 6th spot. Just kind of a testament to how tough this Race Saver division is, you know. And Adam Gullion had a wild flip in the heat race, you know, car bicycle. It was a really, really heavy, big cushion up on the top side, and he got up on the bicycle and cartwheeled that thing into the guardrail and ended up in the catch fence on the outside of turn number 4. But the damage to the car, luckily, as we said when we reported that, the car actually spent most of its time up in the air. You know, it bicycled, it bounced a couple times, hit the guardrail, flipped up over the guardrail, and came up to rest up against the catch fencing, and it didn't really do a lot of rolling. It was mostly spent in the air.
Wow.
Those guys, a couple crews pitched in, and those guys got together, and they got Adam back in action. And he took the last transfer spot out of the B main, and I think he eventually raced his way up to 9th in the A feature.
Yeah, I'm seeing pictures on Facebook of it now. I finally found some of his car.
Jack Dover, Jack Dover did win the B feature, so he started 16th in the A, and just something that's pretty amazing. I'll tell you what, you know Jack, you know. And I've had a chance to see him race very often. And he came from 16th to 6th at the first caution flag, which was on lap 3.
Wow!
You know,
3 laps.
In 3 laps, it was crazy. And the guy starting up front, you know, had a very good race. I mean, once Jack got up to 3rd, maybe about 7 laps in, and the guys that were running 1st and 2nd. The 2 most previous rookies of the year in the sprint car division, Sean Pointer out of Grand Island and Ryan King out of Bennett. Pointer came out of the mini sprint ranks. Ryan King came out of the sport compact division. From sport compacts to sprint cars, he was rookie of the year his first season. Last night he led that A feature, I think, for the first 18 laps. And he was running the bottom side. Pointer was kind of switching lines back and forth. Jack got to 3rd, and we were watching the lap times up in the booth, and they were all within the 10th, and they were holding their own. And but as the track started changing, Jack started experimenting lines just a little bit, and the bottom side started to go away just a little bit on Ryan, and Jack ended up getting the lead. And once he did get to the front, he moved up to the high side and was pretty much gone from that. And it was a very popular win. You know, the crowd, you think a guy that comes down, but when you don't get a chance to see him racing there weekly like we used to, you know, when he does show up, the fans really were on board with the thing, and they witnessed a great drive, and, you know, coming from that far back all the way up to taking the win, and they rewarded him with some pretty good cheers, you know, when the checkered flag flew. Ryan King was passed by Sean Pointer for the 2nd spot. He ended up 3rd on the track. Gene Ackland was 4th, and Jason Martin, another good drive. He came from, I believe, the 12th position up to 5th. But in post-race inspection, Pointer's front wing, nose wing, was found to be just a little bit too far forward as per the rules. And so Pointer went from 2nd to 20th, and that handed 2nd place to Ryan King. And then we had a great fireworks, as I said before, we had a great fireworks display, you know, and I think about 95% of the crowd hung around for that one, you know, and even had a lot of cars slowing down, driving down the highway and stuff like that to check it out. But that was about maybe 12, 14-minute long firework demonstration down there, and we've heard comments that they thought it was one of the best that they'd seen down at Eagle. So Jim and the guys did a great job, and you know, next week we got a big night coming up. It's one of the fan appreciation nights. I think they have 2 nights during the year. The one is the driver appreciation night. The fan appreciation night, you get $5 on the front gate, and expecting a big crowd. Hopefully the weather's going to cooperate again, and it should be, like I said, it should be another great night of racing. And this whole deal all leads up to a couple big shows. You know, the Race Saver Nationals coming up on Labor Day weekend. We're up to 82 entries now from 17 states. And then the following week, the Nebraska Cup, which is going to be the best of the best SLMR late models, Nebraska 360s, and the Sprint Series of Nebraska Race Saver Series. So that's going to be a good night of racing, too, down there, and really looking forward to it.
Always do appreciate your time, Stan. Best of luck.
Hey.
We'll see you Friday night, right? You're going to be in the booth with me?
Friday night we'll be at the Rich Bellino Memorial. Rich, he's the guy that put I-80 Speedway on the map. It was he and Bob Anderson put that thing together, had a vision back in the early 90s, and they built a great racetrack down there that's withstood the test of time, and their big event course coming up in a couple weeks, Silver Dollar National. We'll have the Bobby Parker Memorial Sprint Car Race with Nebraska 360s. We'll have SLMR. We'll have B-Mods, on a big practice night, give all those guys a chance to test the waters down there, so to speak. And then 2 big nights of racing with the USMTS Modifieds and the Lucas Oil National Late Model Tour down at I-80 Speedway.
Thanks a lot, Stan. Always do appreciate it. We'll talk to you again soon.
Yeah. Oh, and by the way, I figured out in the next Pick'ems contest, I have a new strategy.
Okay.
What you need to do every week, you need to ask Dirk who his pick is for today. And that's the guy I'm going to take the following week.
I tell you, it would have got you. It would have got you like 5 wins in a row.
Well, there you go. All you got to be doing is pay attention, and you can get a little tip like that, and you put it all together, and we might be going to Kansas Speedway. You never can tell.
I'll have to look over the picks and see if anybody did that. Somebody picked up on that because they may have done that, and they just not said anything to me because I'd have talked about it on the air.
Yeah. All right, guys.
Secret. Thanks,
Have a
Stan.
good show.
You too.
I don't think you're going to top last week's show, though.
No, we don't have anything to give away, and I had to go through and overhaul my questions. Have a good Sunday.
Guys.
Thanks, buddy.
You too. Bye.
We're going to take a quick break. We'll come back for a quick turn 4, then we'll wrap it all up. This is The Front Stretch on AM 590, Omaha's ESPN Radio.
My kind of road trip is a little different. Sure, it's got hours of driving with plenty of pit stops, but it's not for minivans. And this drive is one journey that's all about the destination. This is my road trip. This is my Speedway. July 29th, experience the NASCAR K&N Pro Series Casey's General Stores 150, presented by Vatterott College. July 30th is the NASCAR Xfinity Series US Cellular 250. Tickets start at $15 only at Iowa Speedway.
Joe's Karting in Council Bluffs has taken a page out of IMCA's rulebook and gone crate. These brand new low-emission engines will still have you white-knuckling it all through the Metro's fastest indoor facility. Joe's Karting is now friendly for all skill levels with their brand new Honda-powered engines. It's time to get to Joe's today and find out what drivers like Jack Dover, Shaylee Bate, and Andrew Kosiski have known for years. Located in Council Bluffs and online at joeskarting.com. That's karting with a K.
After 50 years of being America's home track, Eagle Raceway is the place to be on Saturday nights for great dirt track racing. Bring the whole family out this Saturday night for Fan Appreciation Night, where tickets are half price. Get your tickets now at eagleraceway.com for just $5. Gates open at 5 with the green flag waving at 6:30. Don't miss Eagle Raceway's Fan Appreciation Night, along with great IMCA racing action this Saturday night. Eagle Raceway, just east of Lincoln on Highway 34 in Eagle, Nebraska.
Dan and Dirk are live for one last corner. Give them a call now at 402-573-0590.
We've had some pretty quick turn 4s in the history of this show. This is going to be the quickest.
That pit stop there, we only got 3 lug nuts on each wheel.
We're calling for a loose tire here in about 2 minutes, and we're a couple of laps in and there's some heat in the tires. I want to say a big congratulations to Logan Schuchart. What a special win on Friday night. So Chris Krug and I are driving back from I-80 Speedway after the racing action, and we're listening to the World of Outlaw broadcast off their internet stream through Chris's phone, and it's the last 7 laps of Logan Schuchart on the leading the race with Donnie Schatz right behind him in Wisconsin. And not only to be so close to win your first World of Outlaws race in an incredibly underfunded organization and in only your 3rd year, and you've got Donnie Schatz right behind you. Right next to you, unless they did the lone start with double file behind them. But he did a great job. He took off, was on the cushion, and pulled away. Within 4 or 5 laps, he had a second lead. He kept adding to it, and he went screaming by that start-finish line for the double checkers. Got his very first win in the World of Outlaws for his career. Congratulations to those guys.
We brought him some luck.
That's a special win for those guys, and I'm really excited for him because – when we're walking up and down the row at I-80 Speedway when I was there that Wednesday for the World of Outlaws race, you see immaculate trailer after immaculate. I mean, these things are spotless. They're so clean. They're looking gorgeous. And then you see Logan's Schuhart's trailer, and you begin to understand when we say underfunded team, it's bare bones. And for them to be as successful as they are with that organization. And please don't take that as me talking bad about them or anything. It is what it is. They don't have the sponsorship. They don't have the funding. They don't have the money behind them.
They don't have
top
2
10
guys
teams
cleaning
do.
the trailer all the time.
Right. And it's so great to see him get the win. So congratulations to them. The Iowa Corn 300 kicks off today at 4:15 at Iowa Speedway. Tickets are still available at the gate for $10. $10. You can drive over to Iowa Speedway. You can watch some racing. You can come back home tonight. It's going to be a beautiful day at Iowa Speedway.
And where else can you get a corn dog and a waffle cone?
It's going to be delicious. We'll preview New Hampshire during next weekend's show, and we'll talk so much more. This has been The Front Stretch with Dirk Houston and Dan Taylor on AM 590, Omaha's ESPN Radio.
If you love wings, if you love rings, and all kinds of other tempting things, great times, great food, get to Quaker Steak and Lube.
Quaker Steak and Lube is the official watering hole for the front stretch and the best place to catch all the NASCAR action today. Open at 11 a.m. with delivery available to Council Bluffs.
Great times, great food, get to Quaker Steak and Lube.
Are you looking to book your next outing? Look no further than Joe's Karting in Council Bluffs. Located just north of Bass Pro Shop, Joe's Karting can handle outings of well over 100 plus people. Bachelor parties, corporate outings, team building, birthday parties, and much more. Give Buddy a call today and reserve your outing. Joe's will even work with local restaurants to cater your event. Book yours today at joeskarting.com. That's karting with a K. It's time to get to Joe's and find out what everyone already knows.